Hello, all, and as always, thank you so much for spending a little time with us. It's Thursday, the 24th day of October. Earlier this afternoon, Senator Rand Paul stopped in Sagersville, a series of meet and greets through eastern Kentucky. We'll hear the questions and issues put to him, as well as his response and ideas for the future of our government and eastern Kentucky. And we will have it almost in its entirety. If you weren't there today and wish to hear what he had to say and the questions that local individuals had to ask, we'll have that for you, beginning right after these messages from some of our sponsors. Be sure and come by Premier Motors in Paintsville this Saturday for their huge October closeout. A special invitation from John and Lisa Mischel. They're having a big car show, all the classics, 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. Free food cooked on the Big Bertha grill. And it's Friday and Saturday for the food, and low prices on a newly doubled inventory. That's right, they've doubled their inventory just for this big sale to push out the month of October. And it's all this Saturday at Premier Motors in Paintsville.
Fall is here, and it's time to rake in the savings at Home Furniture. Come in now for the largest sale ever on select bedroom suites. Prices have been drastically reduced, up to 40% off. All in-stock recliners are buy one, get one half off. Purchase a big screen TV, get a sound bar free. Seasons may change, but we'll always have financing available for everyone, guaranteed. Come in today while supplies last and take advantage of these huge savings at Home Furniture, Highlands Plaza, Prestonsburg.
Whether you want to be feared or favored, funny or frightful this Halloween, Fraser's Prater Drug Seasonal Shop has everything you'll ever need for the mood or effect you desire. And while we never know just how colorful our natural landscape will be at autumn, we are for always certain the season is vibrant inside the region's largest selection of fall and home decor. So come and see what surprises and delights await you at Fraser's Prater Drug Seasonal Shop in downtown Sagersville. Hey guys, listen to this. Bailey's Carpet and Hardware is celebrating 20 years of service this Saturday with a customer appreciation extravaganza. Huge deals on smaller items like rolls of duct tape for just $2.99, a heavy-duty stapler under $10. They've got Husqvarna 16-inch chainsaws down to $179, just as a way to say thank you. And if you stop in, you need to register for their grand prize drawing, a Gatlinburg vacation, 5 days, accommodations, and all sorts of tickets for all sorts of fun things to do, all sorts of prizes, big discounts throughout the entire store, celebrating 20 years at Bailey's Carpet and Hardware this Saturday from 9 till 3.
At the end of every race, Mark Martin hangs up his driving gloves. He hangs up his fire suit. And he hangs up his helmet. Which is why he picks up his phone and opens the ER Extra app. The app shows ER Extra wait times, locations, and more. It's the one safeguard Mark Martin is never without. ER Extra at Paul B. Hall Regional Medical Center. Extra fast, extra easy, extra great.
Hi, I'm Don McFarland. I want to be your family lawyer. If you've been injured on the job, if you're interested in getting your Social Security disability or SSI benefits, or if you've been injured because of someone else's negligence, or basically, if a car wreck has caused you to suffer pain, then pick up the phone and call Donald Wayne, 349-9000.
From time and money saving services like their overdraft protection, telephone and online banking services, to finding the right home, college, or car loan, to personalized checking and savings accounts designed around your exact needs, Sagersville National Bank is still your best choice and the same locally owned and operated bank that's been looking out for your family's financial health since 1902. Sagersville National, restoring the piggy bank population one savings at a time. Welcome back, everyone. As always, thanks for spending a little time with us. This Thursday, the 24th, earlier today, Senator Rand Paul was in Sagersville, the final stop on today's tour of eastern Kentucky, making prior stops in Louisa and Paintsville, then arriving at the Sagersville Dairy Queen to a standing room only crowd. With the exception of the final two moments where I was just switching from one tape to the other and missed the very last few of his remarks, we'll have today's address in its entirety, where Paul was there to answer questions and address issues on coal, our economy, his idea that does merit listening to keep our taxes here instead of sending them on to Washington, It was a tough room for a few moments, but it was also an interesting afternoon to spend with a senator who says that he has a great deal of legislation in the works that will better the lives of Eastern Kentuckians.
Thanks for coming out. I'm glad I could stop by today. We've been spending the last 2 days up in the northeastern part of the state, and last month we did a couple days down in the southeastern part of the state. And I've got good news and bad news. Good news is your government's back open again. Bad news is your government's back open again. The reason why I say it's bad news is your government is open, and there are a lot of things we want from government. There's a lot of things that government does that we need. But really the problem is we're borrowing over $1 million every minute. It'd be one thing if we were spending what takes in, but realize that about 30% of what we spend at the federal level is borrowed. So we now owe China $1 trillion. We owe Japan $1 trillion. We won the Cold War and we owe Russia a couple $100 billion. We even owe Mexico money. I mean, for goodness sakes, we have to learn to live within our means. You all have to live within your means. Why shouldn't the government simply live within its means? So we had a big fight over raising the debt ceiling. And the president says, well, raising the debt ceiling doesn't add any debt. Well, it's ludicrous. Every time we raise the debt ceiling to a higher number, we chase that number and we end up there. So there needs to be some restraint. He says he won't negotiate and he won't compromise on the debt ceiling. You just got to raise it. But when he was a senator in 2006, he said it would be irresponsible and it would be a lack of leadership to raise the debt ceiling, and he voted no. So he's kind of changed his mind now that the shoe's on the other foot. The bottom line is probably the debt ceiling has to go up. We probably have to borrow more money.
Yes.
I've been for trying to have a plan where we gradually balance the budget over 5 years. We would borrow a little more money even under my plan. But what I say is there has to be a plan. There has to be some contingency, and there has to be someone saying that we can't just give him a blank check. We can't just keep spending money that we don't have. Is it just a number? Is 17 trillion just a number? It's more than that. Economists are saying that our debt, or our burden of debt, is costing us 1 million jobs a year. So what's happening is when our kids get out of school, out of high school or college, they're having trouble getting jobs because of this enormous burden of debt. And this young man asked me about the war on coal. I talk about the war on coal all the time. So you do need to listen, because I have been speaking out against the war on coal and against the president and opposing every one of his policies, and I'll continue to do so. There's something called the REINS Act that I've introduced, and it says any regulation that the president tries to introduce, such as a carbon tax or cap on trade, to go around Congress, that would have to be voted on by Congress. That you shouldn't be allowed to have any president, Republican or Democrat, institute their will or what they want without the Congress voting on it. And so we've introduced this, and we're still fighting for it. The other way I'm fighting against the war on coal is that anytime he does introduce an amendment, not an amendment, a regulation, we have a way of trying to stop it. It's called the Congressional Review Act. I've already invoked this one time. You have to get 32 signatures, and Harry Reid has to let us have a vote, and I've forced a vote to try to reverse some of the regulations. The last one was something to do with the Clean Air Act. The problem with your government is not that some of the regulations aren't well intended. And I'll give you an example. The Clean Water Act was passed in 1974, and it says you can't dump pollutants into a navigable water. Well, I'm for that. Probably none of you want any chemicals dumped in your rivers. You live here. You don't want chemicals dumped in your lakes or rivers. But what happened is somewhere from 1974 to the present, we've decided that dirt is a pollutant. And so when the coal company wants to push some dirt around, they say they're polluting. Well, they're moving dirt around. Or if some guy wants to develop a land over here, let's say it's a low area down by the river, and you move some dirt, they say you've ruined a wetlands. Well, it's ridiculous. One guy in Florida went to jail for 10 years. His daughter went to jail for 8 years for moving clean dirt on dry land. So we've changed pollutant to be dirt, and we've changed a navigable river to be your backyard. So well-intentioned regulations got transformed into something that's very damaging to us, and your government has become a bully. We are trying to fight. Now, I know people are frustrated because we're not always winning, but the president won the election, you know?
Amen.
And we still keep trying to fight it. We keep trying to fight his policies, but it is difficult. We don't always win. We lost recently. He did raise the debt ceiling, and the spending goes on unabated. But it doesn't mean the battle's over. This battle will happen again in January. We have some disagreement in Washington, but I think people do want us to have somebody standing up and saying, we can't keep doing this forever and ever. What I'd like to do is, I've got a few minutes. We've been going all day, but I'd like to take some questions so we can have a little more interaction. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Yes, I'm just wondering, since you got elected, have you changed your views on your platform that you ran on?
Nope, absolutely the same.
Oh, we ain't got a drug problem, and we ain't got a...
I don't think that was part of a platform.
I call it platform. Sorry, I'm not smart enough to get up there.
No, I'm just saying that it's never been my platform that we don't have a drug problem. I think we do have a drug
I
problem.
didn't hear you say that.
No, that's not true.
Before
Anybody
you
else
got
have a question?
How do you reconcile your faith and family values platform when telling the students at the U of L, medical students, to spread disinformation? And do you spread disinformation today about President Obama?
One of the problems with the internet is that people don't understand sarcasm or jokes. And I made a joke, and I actually still think it's kind of funny. When I was in medical school, we'd go around the library after we were done studying and bug other students who were studying. And it never was serious at the time, or is it serious now? We'd say, oh, we heard that the liver pathology is going to be on the test. Just study the liver. And I told this as a joke at the University of Louisville, and if you heard it in context, people laughed and thought it was funny. Never was serious when we were doing it, nor was it a form of disinformation. But sometimes people are a little bit overly serious, and I think because of that, what happens...
It was a form of disinformation on television last night.
Well, no, I didn't, actually. What I said was a
yes,
joke.
Yes, you did.
Well, you're incorrect. But I did tell a joke about talking about pathology and a pathology test when I was 23 years old in medical school, and it was a joke. And if people didn't take it as a joke, that's sort of the unfortunate thing about our society. There are jokes. There are things that are funny. You tell a story. Everybody wants to be too serious about it. Anybody have some?
Ted Cruz. Remember?
Anybody have anything pleasant? Anybody want to be nice? Anybody want to be pleasant?
Yeah.
All right, over here.
I'm Sue Mortimer, one of the owners of Dairy Queen Lease. We appreciate you stopping here today. I think it's good for everybody I'm a Democrat lifelong because Mom and Daddy were, but I'm a very conservative Democrat, so that puts me sort of in the middle of everything. Something that I would like to hear that I haven't been hearing from either side is that with all this thing about the health care, and nobody understands the need for giving young families health care better than we do because we live with it every day. So I know the importance of it. But in all this going back and forth, I didn't hear anything mentioned about all of the fraud that we've just now found out that we've known about for years, that just came to light about the attorney in Floyd County. To me, the attorney in Floyd County who got like billions of dollars, yes, disability. I don't understand why everybody in Washington isn't working to take care of the fraud. You know, it's abundant, it's rampant, it's local, it's statewide, it's national. If we did that, I think everybody we could afford health care for everybody.
I agree. And I think that if the truly disabled were being taken care of and the ones who look like me and hop out of their truck weren't on disability, then we'd have more money to take care of those who truly can't help themselves. I do have some proposals for how we would fix it. I'm a physician, and one of the things that I've noticed is that if you go to your family doctor and your mom goes to me and your kids go to me, you're my customer, it's my inclination to give you what you want. So, but if you're wanting lifetime disability, maybe you shouldn't see your normal family doctor, but an independent doctor who doesn't know you that would make a more objective finding on whether or not you should be on. So right now there is no doctor's exam required for disability. That surprises a lot of people. They look at your medical records, but there is no objective exam by an objective doctor required. I think that's the first thing you have to do. You should have an objective doctor's exam. The other thing I think you should have is you should be re-examined periodically. Once you get on disability, you're on for life. So I think it needs to be re-evaluated. I think if you get rid of the young, able-bodied people that should be working and you got them off disability, people that are missing 2 legs and on dialysis have $10,000 bills, could be taken care of. And so I think there is a way that we could get to that. One other thing I wanted to mention, and this is something that would specifically apply to your community, is we're coming out with a bill in the next month called Economic Freedom Zones. And this is for communities that have unemployment 12% or greater. What we're going to do is introduce a stimulus package that would help a lot of eastern Kentucky. The way we would do it, though, is not the typical stimulus package. Many, on the other side of the aisle primarily, say, oh, well, we'll just tax people in Houston, Texas, and bring it to eastern Kentucky. What I want to do is leave more money in eastern Kentucky. So my idea of a stimulus package is, in counties like this one that have greater than 12% unemployment, we reduce everybody's federal income tax to 5%. We reduce everybody's corporate income tax to 5%. We reduce the payroll tax for your half, the employer half, and for the employee half by 2 points on both sides. It's currently about 13.2. It'd go down to about 9. You know, you'd have to 4.5, and your employees would do 4.5. If you do that for Salyersville, just for Salyersville, that'd be $4 million per year. Be about $20 million over 5 years. What I like about it is this stimulus would be leaving hands in the people who have already earned it. So it wouldn't be me coming to Salyersville and saying, oh, you deserve the money. It would be me leaving it in the hands of someone who's already earned it. And what would you do with it? You'd either buy something or hire somebody or buy another restaurant or do something with it. But I think a lot of it would remain in the community. And it wouldn't be me picking winners and losers. It wouldn't be me coming to someone and saying, why don't you put up a restaurant next to the Dairy Queen and compete with you, and I'll give you a $10 million loan. It would be giving money back to people who are already succeeding in the community at creating jobs. Then you select out for people who are already successful at business. See, a lot of people think running a business is easy. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So the people who are successful in running a business are the people you want to get bigger businesses. But what it means is we can't be in this sort of concept of class warfare where we don't like the people who are succeeding in your community. You want the people who are successful in your community to succeed more, and that's how more jobs are created. But we'll be introducing that in the next week, in the next couple of weeks. It's called Economic Freedom Zones, and it would apply to this county. Anybody else?
Senator, I'd just like to say it's an honor to have you here. And I'll give you a little history. You're younger than some of us here. If you go back 50 years ago, about this time of year, in November, about this time of the month, President Kennedy was assassinated. Well, you know, it was a sad situation for the entire nation. But Lyndon Johnson became president. And soon thereafter, he declared war on poverty. At this time, this was the third poorest county in the United States. Not because of the war on poverty, which I thought was a war on poor people. We won't get into that, but a coal situation came about in the 70s. And we no longer were the third poorest county in the United States. Now, instead of war on poverty, we have war on coal. And I'd like you to address what we're going to do in the future.
You know, I think the first thing we have to do is try to stop the war on coal, which is opposing the president at every step of the way and trying to bring in particularly regulations that are being foisted on us by unelected bureaucrats. We'll continue fighting that battle, but we don't have enough votes. Basically, when we try to oppose one of the president's regulations, there's one Democrat who will vote with us, and that's Joe Manchin from West Virginia. There's no other Democrat who will vote against a regulation on coal. Every other Democrat in the Senate will vote for regulations on coal. And the problem is, and this is what people outside of your community don't understand, if you go to Lexington or Louisville, they don't understand coal either. One question you need to ask people, if you run into a liberal and they say, oh, we need more regulations, you ask them, when was the dirtiest decade in our history? When was the air and the river and the streams the dirtiest? 1890. Ever since 1890, it's been getting better. If you measure for the last 40 or 50 years, just from the EPA, what comes out of the smokestack? Sulfur dioxide, nitrous dioxide, mercury, all of it's gone down every decade. So we still have these people going crazy about it, but now they've gone so crazy about the regulations, there'll be no more coal burn. I don't know how we're going to stop it. You've got that, and you have natural gas competing for this as well. I think the one thing we can do, other than trying to prevent them from killing coal, is that I think what we need to do is we need to try to stimulate the area by leaving more money in the area. And that's all I can think of, really. It'd be nice if a Toyota plant would move to town. That's easier said than done. So until that happens, and I think sometimes we fool ourselves, and I'm not saying you shouldn't try. If you're one of the community leaders here, you should try to get industry to move to town. But in the meantime, if someone's got a mechanic shop and they have 15 employees, let's cut their taxes so maybe they'll have 20 employees. And let's try to grow every business in town that is succeeding. Let's try to grow it. But the only way I can think of is by leaving more money in the hands of those who are earning it. But that's a different philosophy than what the president thinks. The president thinks if there are people in your community that are rich, let's take money from them and give them to people who are not rich. But I would say let's give money back to everybody and try to get everybody to be able to purchase more things and to hire more people. But it's a long-fought battle, and we disagree. You know, the president has his philosophy, and ours is different. And we're going to continue having this fight, but it isn't over, and I think we have to keep fighting.
Question. If you chose to run for president and were elected in this country, what would be your approach to protect constitutional freedoms, such as gun ownership? And
I think it's very important that we protect the whole Bill of Rights. That includes the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, but also includes the Fourth Amendment. I think the government's gotten kind of carried away with this idea of a surveillance state. And so I think particularly your phone calls, you know, whether you read religious magazines or whether you read libertarian magazines or free market magazines, that's your business. And the government should stay out of our lives unless a judge says there's probable cause that you committed a crime. Then they're allowed to look at your records. So really, we do need to protect our Bill of Rights from top to bottom. It also includes protecting such fundamental rights as a jury trial. We've gotten so sort of concerned with people who might be bad people among us that some of us saying, oh, well, let's just lock people up if they're dangerous. That begs the question, who gets to decide who's dangerous and who's not? So I am a very big believer in the due process aspect of things. That's Fourth Amendment, Sixth Amendment. You know, you really have to protect your right to a trial by jury, because there have been times in our histories when we haven't been fair to certain people. For a while it was African Americans. During World War II it was Japanese Americans. So we all need to be very careful about protecting our liberties, because someday it may be evangelical Christians that are in the minority and you don't want to be persecuted because of your religion. All right, maybe one or two more back here.
I know that there has been discussion about minimum wage increasing. Everybody thinks that that would be great, but if a minimum wage goes up, that means that the cost of living is going to go up. And to be quite honest, I think that it should have like a cap on the cost of living for a little while, so that way people can catch up. Because you can't even buy a gallon of gas and a gallon of milk on an hour's worth of work.
You're right. The important thing to know about why your cost of living goes up and why your prices go up is it's from inflation. Inflation is when the Federal Reserve creates new money to pay for debt. So debt drives printing of new money, which drives your prices up. And it happens in a disproportionate way. So if you are trying to climb the economic ladder and you're trying to get started in your career and trying to get ahead in your life, and most of your income goes towards consumables, you get hurt worse than the person who makes twice as much as you, and they pay for their expenses out of their excess income. So inflation always hurts those who are working class and trying to get started more than the wealthy and the upper middle class. But it comes from this fundamental problem of believing you can get something without paying for it. So government promises all these things to people, all these programs to people, many of them well-intended, many of them for diseases and this and that, things that people all would like to correct. But if you don't have money and you borrow the money from China or you print up the money to pay for it, it causes prices to rise. And so that really is the culprit. We have to live within our means if we want to cure inflation. And the government also wants it both ways, because the government realizes that cost of living increases for Social Security are expensive, so they change the definition of inflation. They'll tell you there's 2% inflation right now, but I tell them go buy some milk, go buy some bread, go buy food, and tell me it's 2%. It's probably closer to 10% inflation when you go to the store and buy the things you need to buy for your family, but they've changed the definition so they can reduce the cost of living increases for those on Social Security. But the bottom line is it all feeds back to having to balance your budget and the government and not spending more than comes in order to try to cut the cost of the increase in the cost of living. Thanks, everybody. And we'll do one more.
Okay, for Tea Partiers to talk to someone like me in the middle, what about Social Security? Do you want to privatize Social Security? in code regulations? Do you believe in any regulations? Do you believe in?
Right.
And what about food stamps for people? I've heard you.
Okay. Let's go through them sort of one at a time. What was the first one before the?
Social Security. Do you
Social
want to
Security.
privatize?
Okay, let's start it with Social Security. Social Security is right now $6 trillion short of money. The reason it's short of money, it's not Republicans' fault, it's not Democrats' fault. The reason it's short of money is we're living longer, and because the baby boomers are retiring. So the baby boomers retired, and then they had families that were smaller, and then their families had families that were smaller. So the people in the workforce are much smaller than the people retiring. So Social Security is short of money, and that's just a fact. How do you fix it is the question. And it's not an easy solution, but I'm going to give you the honest solution, is I think it cannot be fixed or saved unless my generation, the younger people, wait a little longer to get their Social Security. I think it's inevitable. If we do it slowly, it's not as painful. We did it already once. In 1983, we increased the age from 65 to 67. I think it's going to have to go up again. Everybody that's looked at this objectively has looked and said the age of eligibility probably has to go up slowly. Not on those who are retired, not on those who are near retirement, but on the next wave, those in their 50s and 40s and 30s.
So you do not want to privatize it?
I want to try to save it. I want to try to save it by increasing the age of eligibility. And then the other, I have a bill to fix it. I'm telling you what's in the bill. In the bill that I propose to fix Social Security, this is my proposal. It's in legislation, and we can send it to you. 2/3 of the problem is raising the age a little bit. The remaining third is means testing. Means testing means that the rich will get a little bit less Social Security. And so I've done pretty well in my career. When I retire, if my bill passes, I would get a couple $100 less every month for my Social Security. Not because I particularly want to, but because it's the only way you can fix the system.
With that, I've only got a couple of minutes left. A whole lot to try to squeeze into it. A few words first, and I'll be right back. In recognition of our grand reopening and in honor of you, Hutch Chevrolet, Buick, and GMC in Paintsville is celebrating with employee pricing for everyone. And you keep the rebates on any new 2013 or 2014 car, truck, or SUV, and on all our pre-owned inventory. And register now with absolutely no purchase necessary for our grand reopening grand prizes. $10,000 in cash, $3,000 in cash, and 300 gallons of gasoline given away to someone on October the 26th at Hutch. Come on in, because the doors are open, the lights are on, and the shelves are being stocked every day with all those famous name brands you've come to love at Red's Boot Barn at their brand spanking new location in Sayersville on Route 114. That's right, already in sizes and styles by Wrangler, Carhartt, Ariat, and more. And new merchandise coming in every single day. Always the big names, always the big deals, always at Red's Boot Barn in Sayersville. Sayersville Nursing and Rehabilitation Center is proud to announce the newest members of our family, Administrator Elaine Jones and our full-time chaplain Mark Campbell and volunteer Richard Green, new faces with the same sincere desire as these, to assist you and your family with short-term rehabilitation solutions or long-term nursing care needs, close to home and those that you love. Sayersville Nursing and Rehabilitation. 170s, 500, 570, 800, 900s, 2 seats, 4 seats, Razors, Rangers, and XPs in the hottest colors with the coolest accessories with the best financing available and rebates up to $1,000 at Connelly's, Kawasaki, and Polaris of Paintsville.
Howdy, Hatfield. I reckon I'll take my pig back.
Ain't your pig.
Yeah, it is.
No, it ain't.
Yeah, it is, and I can prove it. Ma, I just sent a picture of our missing pig. Tell everybody it's time to start feuding.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I guess ain't gonna be no feud. Real nice picture, though.
We'll put it on Instagram.
Appalachian Wireless's 4G. Great pictures, video, text, and talk. Bigger savings, better service. That's today's Appalachian Wireless.
Faster, friendlier, family-owned Parkway Pharmacy, open 8:30 till 6:30 Monday through Friday in the new McGoffin Medical Plaza under the care of local pharmacist Jesse Rudd. To make Parkway Pharmacy your pharmacy, come by or give us a call at 349-4400. All right, I've got about 90 seconds or less to squeeze in all this information, starting with a very happy birthday, Jasper Dwayne Gibson, from your aunt, a whole lot of family, and a whole lot of friends. Happy birthday today to Jasper Dwayne Gibson. And the most pressing community calendar announcement brought to you by McGoffin Farm Bureau is that of a reminder of a lunch and learn session tomorrow. Life Story, that's what they'll be discussing. This is a free lunch and a free lesson and a free invitation at your McGoffin County Extension Office, noon to 1 tomorrow for their next lunch and learn session. Now, as for your Licking Valley RECZ forecast, there's one significant change from this time 24 hours ago. I'll get to that in just a second. Still, a hard freeze likely for tonight for all but far eastern Kentucky, and you can see where we're going to be sitting. 1 degree below freezing is our expected nighttime low, and a hard freeze is expected for everybody tomorrow night. So we've got a freeze warning in effect from 2 till 10 in the morning, and then a freeze warning in effect from midnight Friday to 10 o'clock Saturday morning. And this is why. Tomorrow, pretty much like today, I had 49 degrees for a daytime high. We're staring at the same thing expected tomorrow, a low of 28 tomorrow night. Now, that's following a low today of 33. Keep that in mind. You're going to feel it, and that frost is going to be widespread Saturday morning. And here's Saturday's temperature. Oh, and by the way, that was a significant change. Tomorrow night's low, yesterday at this time, we were expecting around 23, maybe 24 degrees. So an increase of 4 to 5 degrees. That's a good increase. Now, on to your Saturday's forecast. Widespread frost in the morning, but sunshine burning it off, melting it off slowly, I guess would be a better term. 54, 39 for your Saturday, and for the last half of your weekend, 57 and 37 under mostly sunny skies. Now, we're 1 week away from the trick-or-treat forecast, or from trick-or-treat. Your trick-or-treat forecast, just a glimpse tonight, and I'll elaborate more tomorrow, has us 66 during the day. However, we've got a lot of clouds and a chance of some showers to go along with that. I'm hoping the latter of which will kind of wane between now and then, but temperatures are definitely going to be improved for your trick-or-treat. I've got all sorts of announcements on our calendar, or at least a few, about events associated with trick-or-treat here in McGoffin County. If you've got something going on, send them to us, and we'll forward it on to the viewing audience. But for now, that's my time. I've already got a full show for tomorrow, and I'm expecting a little more news to come in on top of that. So join us for the end of the week when I see you back here next time for more of your news today. Good night, everybody.